Welcome back, dear listeners, to another powerful episode of Pleasure Principles, the podcast where we dive deep into the human experience, exploring how pleasure, connection, and self awareness shape the lives that we truly want to live. I'm your host, Avik, and today we are tackling a topic, I'd say. Yes, a topic that sits at the heart of so many relationships. Can you guess? It's money. Yeah. Money is not just the numbers on a screen, it's emotion, history, identity, and sometimes even trauma. And when two people with the different money stories come together, conflict often follows. But it doesn't have to stay with that, right? So I'm thrilled to welcome my lovely guest today. Please welcome Jennifer Edwards. So, welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Hi, Avik. It's great to be here. Thanks.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion, I'd quickly love to introduce you with Jennifer. So, Jennifer is a certified financial planner and financial wellness specialist. So, she has worked with hundreds of individuals and the couples to uncover the hidden layers, like cultural, psychological, and emotional, that drive our money choices. So, through her 7 layer financial wellness framework, she helps people move from shame and stress to calm, confidence, and connection around money. So, I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Jennifer.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay. So, Jennifer, understanding about the money conflict, many couples I talk to feel kind of they are trapped uh, in
Mm.
kind of recurring arguments about the money. Uh, so from your experience, uh, what do you think are the most common underlying causes of these kind of fights?
I think it's mostly lack of awareness around what money means and lack of exploration and curiosity around the underlying meaning and stories that each partner has. Because I think everybody they love each other. They chose each other. They want to be supportive and they enjoy
Mm,
making each other's dreams come true. But there's something very vulnerable about our purchases, our money desires, what we decide to spend our money is like bringing our identity out into the open for other people to judge and to comment on and maybe even to disparage, like to say we don't think that that's a good way to live. When I choose whenever you choose to spend your money on, it's a reflection of your deepest desires and values. So it's very vulnerable. And at least in the United States, the cultural norm is that money is a taboo topic. We don't really discuss money. And so we're all kind of living in this layer of shame and isolation around our money desires. And we're kind of like trying to be connected, trying to get what we want out of the relationship, but not really truly understanding each other's financial narratives, what it means to each other. And so we can judge each other based on things that, it's just not a fair, it's not a fair judgment because we're not really getting all the information about what that really means to the person.
exactly, exactly. So, and also, how often do these conflicts tie back to the family history, or maybe you can say the early experiences with the money? What do you think?
Well, I think that it harkens back to the early family. In fact, our money belief system is formed in early childhood before we've even had much experience with money. We form our money beliefs unconsciously usually they're set in stone right around ages 7 between ages 7 and 10. So nobody's probably explored these with us and nobody's really come and said, what do you think it means when mommy pulls out her wallet and hands this person this
Mm.
little card and then they give you things? Like, we're not exploring that. We're not talking about that with the children. And so they're forming these opinions
Mm.
and then they're following us into our adult relationships without ever really coming to light. So it almost always comes from that. There's childhood trauma that comes that's, we don't like to acknowledge it. There's this sense that one of the things that happens is that on our unconscious minds, we want to belong to our families of origin. We want to identify with them. We want to, that it almost feels like being an infant if we're not like
Mm.
our family in some way. So let's say that our family didn't make very smart financial choices. And again, I'm going to say that
Yeah.
that goes back to societal layers. I've got my whole framework that says that a lot of that's not really our fault, but let's just say that the poor money decisions, there was poor money management in our home. We might even subconsciously want to identify with our family and have created the belief, I'm bad with money, so that we can actually identify with our family of origin. And this is all going on the, unconsciously. We're not actually making that decision, cognitively saying, I want to think to myself, I'm bad with money. But we do it because if we say the opposite, if we say, you know what, I don't much. I can be trusted with money. Wealth wants to come to me because I can be trusted with wealth. If our family of origin wasn't good with money, then that can feel like a disconnect, again, on our unconscious level, and our body, our nervous system and our psyche wants to say, wait a minute,
Mm.
if we're good with money and our family wasn't, where does that leave us? Are we out on our own? We don't have any connection to the people that raised us if we say that.
Mm. Exactly, exactly. So, uh, I mean, it's really fascinating uh, because, I mean, uh, it's not just about kind of overspending or maybe the budgeting mistakes, but it's deeper, almost like, what do I say, like emotional baggage with a kind of dollar sign attached, right? So, yeah.
Mhm. And so it's even deeper than the emotional side. It gets all the way into our
Mm,
nervous system,
mm,
subatomically into the energy that's in our bodies. We could have had trauma that creates a nervous system activation response when we got to do something like sit down and work out a budget or track our income and expenses or pay our bills
yeah.
or look at our long-term plan for how we're gonna get to retirement. We might actually have, our system says that's not a safe place to go, actually feels like that's dangerous. And if
Mm,
we don't explore that and expose it and then treat it the way that that trauma should be treated, then we're never gonna get to that point of actual
mm,
financial success. In fact, we might even create a greater problem. So let's say it is a nervous system response that keeps you from being able to sit down and do budgeting. But budgeting is a habit that is pretty crucial for financial success. You have to know, wait, we're not good at doing it mentally. We have
mm,
to sit down and look at the numbers like where did I spend my money? Where do I intend to spend my money? Is it in alignment with
mm,
my goals? But if you have a nervous system response to that that's keeping you from being able to, you're procrastinating it, you're avoiding it, and but you make this goal like, okay, well, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to create this habit, and then you fail because
mm,
your nervous system cannot let you do that because of the danger that it has brought from childhood into adulthood around the topic. Then you're going to feel that you're not good at it, which is going to reinforce that story of I'm not good with reading. So it can actually be a really bad thing to attack. This is why I do my 7 layers is because I don't want you
mm,
to try to solve the wrong problem and then create inadvertently, worsen the problem in the end.
mm. So, also, like, you also talk about the emotional side of the money. See if you can explain, like, how physiological response or maybe the stress can escalate the financial disagreements. So, what do you have to say?
Well, when we're stressed, so there's this thing that happens in our brain. It's starting to get a lot of attention. I think a lot of people are familiar with the idea of the reptilian brain or the amygdala, which is in the back of our brain. It's one of the earliest parts of our brain that's developed. And it's a generalized stress response. It tells the body to do something, it prepares it for action. And it doesn't care what the stimulus is. If your mind interprets it as being unsafe, then it's going to initiate that response. So it could be a physical danger, like I actually need to amp up my body and get ready to run or fight, or it could be an emotional danger, like a threat to, our sense of self. It could be just a perceived thing that really wasn't a threat. So somebody might say to you, "Hey, I really think that you're a nasty person," and that could be an objective threat to your identity, but then it could be something that's totally not related to that you perceive as a threat. And our body reacts all it's the same in all of the circumstances. That it's not discerning this stress response. And one of the things that happens when we're in our stress response, we're in our system activation and fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, is that our body moves into getting prepared for action. So it goes into where the organs are getting ready for it takes a lot of rest and digest. It goes into where you're ready to fight, you're ready to move. And it takes it out of cognitive thinking in the prefrontal cortex. It takes blood and energy away from that part of the brain because at that point it's like you don't have time to think about how we're going to get safe. We just need to get ready to go. We just need to go. So if we're to that state, when we're trying to for financial problem and we don't have that part of our brain on board that can do the analysis, that can sit and think, hey, what's really here in alignment with my goals? And also that's where connection can happen. And we cannot connect when we're in our fight
Mm.
flight response, when we're in a defensive mechanism, when we're getting prepared for danger to escape danger. It's the opposite of connection. It's an escape response. And so, yeah, you're not gonna connect with your partner. You're not gonna be able to think rationally about you can't be in empathy. You can't be in curiosity. All of those things shut down when we're in that state of stress. And because it's so pervasive, it's almost like we're not even aware now that we're almost
Mm.
always in this low level state of stress and our bodies and brains were not really built for that kind of experience. It's built for, we quickly getting into our stress response, dealing with the situation, and then coming
Yeah.
out of it. And what we're finding with modern living is that we're kind of up on the stress response at like all the time. And it's really unhealthy. It's damaging. I mean, you can see the effects of it because
Mhm.
we're all on edge and it comes out in all of our human interactions there. So
Very well said. Very well said. Yes. So, like, um, well, I mean, definitely, it's a great way that you mentioned. But one thing also stuck, I mean, stick to my mind is like, how can couples recognize like when a fight is less about money and more about the fear or um, you can say insecurity?
well, first of all, we just need to say it's always about something like that. It's never really about the dollars. There's always something that symbolizes. So if it's somebody saying, "Hey, I want to retire with some security, and so I want us to stop spending
Mm.
so much today in order to save more for the future," and somebody else is saying, "Well, our experiences today are really important to us. Maybe our family is young, and when I was young, my
Mm.
family, we didn't do much in the day. We didn't go on vacations. My dad was always working, thinking that
Yeah.
someday there would so what those stories mean, it always has to do with that.
Mhm.
And also the messages from society. We have to acknowledge all of that. So the
Mm.
thing is to start these conversations. The best time to start having conversations like this is at the very beginning of your relationship, and the second best time is today. It's just to start today. Hey, I listened to a podcast about our money stories and about
Mm.
financial intimacy, and I just wanted to, ask if we could talk a little bit about what finances look like in our families growing up and some of the beliefs and attitudes and stories about that situation that came in from that to us. Just recognizing that these were formed in an immature child brain and that they really aren't who your person is. Who your partner is not these beliefs. They can be changed, they can be influenced, they can and they can be examined objectively. We can go, belief system get in there. If I had to choose it, I wouldn't choose to put that in my belief system around money, and so we can start to make it conscious. So you can start to just and this is one of the things that I love about financial intimacy is that it can begin any kind of intimacy, any kind of vulnerability can begin with one person's courage, one person's ambition to change the dynamic, to say, "Hey, you know what? I know this might be really sensitive for you, and I understand that because money is a taboo topic in our culture, and your family would have never talked about it. My family certainly would have never talked about it. But I want us to enter a new phase. And so I just want to let you know a little bit about what was going on for me around money and maybe even start to very honestly give some information about the things that you're choosing to spend your money on and maybe why that is. And you yourself saying, yeah, I was thinking to myself, maybe the phrase, I really deserve not to have to cook tonight after a long day. Maybe that was the thought that came through your brain. And you can, bring yourself up out of it. And go, why did I think that? What does that mean to me? Is that actually in alignment with my highest priorities and goals? Because I could almost always come up with that as an excuse to buy food on the way home rather than meal plan or just cook a simple dinner. Just cook eggs and pancakes. My food plan was always interesting when I just didn't have time to actually cook and try to access the higher wisdom, figure out what you really want and examine that and then share it with your partner without the expectation of them having to share with you, and eventually they'll learn that this is a safe topic. My partner's opening up with me about what's going on for them financially. Let me give this a try. And maybe they'll say, hey, the other day, some friends and I, we were talking about this and such, and he was talking about all the money he made on a sports betting something or other, and I felt this FOMO come up of like, well, maybe I can make a bunch of money on that or something. Maybe they'll start to open up. I'm using kind of what seems like maybe a female and a male because that's the typical pattern that I see is that the female partner wants to get into the depth and the exploration of the emotional side and the male partner, because our culture has not taught them to be in touch with their feelings. That's usually who has to kind of come along second, but it could be either way.
Exactly. Exactly true. Yep. And also, like, uh, for the couples who are listening today, who are ready to stop fighting about money, what will be the very first step you'd recommend they should take after this conversation?
The very first step would be to sit down and share your financial narratives. Just say, don't open up the numbers. Don't pull out the spreadsheet. Don't say, how are we going to do better at budgeting? How are we going to track our income and expenses better? But to just say, what does it get you? Or think back on a time when you had a fight and try to look at it like John Gottman, who's a relationship expert, says, pretend that it was two actors on a stage and you're up in a box like looking down as spectators and try to look at that going, what's going on for me? What's happening in my mind? And really disconnect from it being, so such a part of who you are that you have to identify with it as, what I was thinking is who I am. That's probably not true. Your best self is the part that is not fighting, that is connected, that is open, that is calm and confident. So if you were in that state during that stage, you can be like, okay, what were we fighting about? And what was that meaning to us? And then here's another really important tip is to stop if you get to the point where you feel yourself going into that stress response. This takes practice. This takes a lot of self awareness to start learning. Oh, okay. I was kind of able to sort of be on the team and in this together. And then at some point, somebody said something, maybe triggered something, activated that nervous system response. And now I'm in fight or flight. Even though and I didn't choose it. We have to, recognize that these triggers, they just happen. These emotions, they just come up. And if you're not in a place where you can make good progress, then stop the financial discussion. I would say stop any discussion in that state because you can't be on the side of your partner. You can't be empathetic. You can't be connected. You can't be open and vulnerable because you're not feeling safe. So just say, whoa, something just happened to me. I'm getting used to how this works. So I'm just going to take a few minutes break because I don't want to hurt the relationship by continuing to talk when I'm in this state. It's not your fault. It's just something that comes up. I love you. I love our partnership and I will come back and I'll check in with you in a few minutes, see if I'm okay. If I'm not okay in about 15, 20 minutes, then I'll come back in an hour to restart. Nothing's wrong. That's an important thing is like we want to throw in the blame. We want to say, what did you do to make this happen to me? And it's your fault I'm feeling negative. And it's really important to step back and go, hey, this just came up. It could be from my childhood. It could be from something in a past relationship. It could be me and just the way that I've interpreted something that has nothing to do with actually feeling safe or unsafe. It doesn't mean that you actually attacked me for me to happen. Right? And if it takes 3 hours, then let it take 3 hours. If it takes a day, let it take a day. And then come down off of that and then come back and go, I can be here for you. I'm grateful that you were patient with me as I got through that. And, now can we continue? Really important step then.
Exactly. Exactly true. Yep. Lovely. Amazing. And also, if any suggestion you were to give to the listeners today, what that will be?
Well, one of my main main suggestions is to i- it's okay to start with just the one person. Because sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to do relationship work until the other person is on board. And it takes a lot of courage to begin with, just one person saying, hey, I want us to be closer. And so I'm going to open up to you. You open up to me on your terms whenever you feel ready. But I want you to know about me and to research if you need to a little bit about what's called active listening. So where, you say, could you just repeat back to me what you've heard? And
Mm,
and then clarify until the person gets it right. Say, oh yeah, you've heard this, but what I really meant was more like this. And then they can change their perspective and go, okay, so what I really heard you to say was this and such. You say, yes, you've got it. Thank you for listening. And then oftentimes the other partner will want to share. And then some intimacy can happen. And that's a really powerful thing to be known. I'm sure that you have explored this a lot on the podcast, but to be known fully and intimately is one of our deepest desires. And when I do my 7 layers and I talk about the societal effects or the system really is built to keep us apart. It's meant to isolate us. And that's one of the damaging things about the economies where we've got people that, certain groups of people are given more privilege and other groups of people are given less privilege and we're separated into classes and into caste and we're that's the culture that we live in. So to find that connection, to swim through
mm,
all of that muck and actually like deeply connect on a personal level,
mhm.
that's what I feel most alive. So I think it's worth the effort.
Lovely. Amazing. Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. And I'd say you have reminded us that the financial wellness is not just about the numbers, but it's all about understanding ourselves, our histories, and the people that we love. So, for everyone who's listening, please remember that every conversation about money is a kind of opportunity to grow closer, not further apart. So start with curiosity, empathy, and honesty, and you'll definitely see the harmony is possible. So Jennifer, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium to connect?
I'm on LinkedIn, Jennifer Edwards CFP. You'll see my business name is Breakthrough Financial Wellness, so you'll see that on the banner. And then my website is breakthroughfinancialwellness.com. So all together, no underscores. And you'll see you can connect with me there as well.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And with this hope, until next time, uh, stay curious, stay connected, and keep exploring the principles of pleasure in all areas of life. So, thank you so much.